Hello, and welcome to Inside View. I'm your host, Sid Marsh, and with me tonight is Kathryn Eustis with the Calaveras County Office of Education. We're going to learn quite a bit tonight. Kathryn, welcome.
Well, thank you. Glad to be here.
Okay, what exactly do you do for the Calaveras County Office of Education?
I am the Director of Student Support Services, which means that I oversee most of the student health and welfare and youth development programs for county schools.
Okay, now let's hear some more about what the different programs are. It sounds like there's a laundry list of them, and you oversee them.
I do. This audience would remember me from where I started in Calaveras County, which is the Calaveras Youth Mentoring Program.
Yep.
And that was these many years ago.
And you started that, right?
I did start that program in 2003.
Okay.
But with the very strong support of the county. I was just the facilitator, but the program was a movement of the county, is a movement of the county.
Sounds like you've grown now.
It is growing. So now we have the Calaveras Youth Mentoring Program, and it has grown to have a young adult component called Adventures in Mentoring. And that's a young adult group mentoring program to help young adults on their road to adulthood. So that is a new program that was being launched right when COVID hit, so we're really getting that going this coming year. But it's a very exciting program to support young adults. We've been wanting to do that for a long time.
So it's almost like peer-to-peer kind of thing, or?
Well, seasoned adult mentors do facilitate the groups for the young adults, but those adults don't have to be of any particular age. So sometimes we have mentors that are very close in age to the young people. But that's mostly for kids, young people about like 16 to 22 or 24, depending on what they need and where they are in life. And we've combined that with our independent living program, which leads into foster youth. So the main programs that we run are Foster Youth Services Coordinating Program, the Independent Living Program, which is the life skills program for foster youth who are young adults. Then our Calaveras Youth Mentoring Program and Adventures in Mentoring Program for young adults. Then we also have the Friday Night Live, Leadership, Club Live, and Youth Council, which are 3 youth development leadership programs that we support in the schools.
What is Friday Night Live? I've heard that term, but I don't know exactly what it means. And
it's an interesting thing, Sid, because I'm not sure that it still holds the meaning that it had.
It's evolved.
It came about because so many young people were dying from drinking and driving accidents on Friday nights.
Ah.
And that was 30 years ago, maybe more. It was, it was a long time ago that it came into being, but that's where the name comes from, Friday Night Live. What it has evolved into is a youth development and advocacy program. And it is primarily a prevention program for drugs and alcohol because those are still issues that young people face and that their peers really want to support them in being more responsible and careful about, because that is the thing that kills most young people who die in their teens. So that's what it is. It's a youth advocacy program, and now in our county, it's a leadership program. So Friday Night Live Leadership is a program in the high schools where young people come together, they identify the issues that are of concern to them on their campus, whether that is mental health, which it is a lot now, or whether that's drugs and alcohol, or distracted driving is a really big concern for young people. And they develop campaigns to bring awareness around their campus to those issues and try to change behavior among their peers. So that's what leadership is. And Club Live is the middle school version of that, where they're sort of just getting their feet wet in the idea of leadership and advocacy and developing those skills. So it's sort of a Friday Night Live Junior.
And then it's not really just Friday night period. I mean, it's all week long they're doing this kind of thing.
Well, usually they're weekly meetings in the schools. So our coordinators go into the schools and meet with these clubs and support their building of their programs that they want to do. So it's usually about once a week during the school year.
And how many kids are involved in all this?
Well, when we were pre-COVID, we had about, I'd say maybe 60 kids in the county involved in Friday Night Live, and more than that in Club Live, because that's a lunch club, and we do it at all the high schools and all the middle schools. And then we had a Calaveras Youth Council, which we have to start back up, which is a county-wide leadership group of high schoolers who want to look at issues that are more county-wide issues. And they invite in leaders from around the county, the sheriff and they've had the superintendents of the school districts to talk to them about what their issues are, to talk with them about what their concerns are as young people and try to work on affecting change at more of a county-wide level.
What are some of the issues that concern them?
That have come up at the youth council?
Yeah.
One big one that they've had, honestly, is the relationship between the two high schools. The rivalry between Calaveras and Bret Harte, especially at basketball games, but at some other sporting events, had gone from fun to nasty. And so the youth council put together a rivalry game night, and it was all silly, silly games, and there was a team from each school, and the site administrators participated and tried to make the rivalry funny again and bring the schools together. And that has been a real concern for kids on both campuses because they have a lot of friends at the other campuses. And honestly, Sid, that I don't know if I'm misspeaking in this audience, but a lot of the rivalry issues that have come up in the county have not been the kids.
Really?
Been the parents.
The parents, okay.
And so
They kind of instigate things or whatever.
they just get a little too worked up about what's going on in the high school sports event, I think. Maybe a little too invested.
And have you seen it kind of back off a little bit because of the programs you have?
Well, everything is so different now, but I think that did bring light to it. At that time that the youth council was working on that issue, both of the high school site administrators were also very much working on it because it had reached a point where they were talking about not letting there be audiences for some of the sporting events because it had gotten out of hand. So this group was working in concert with leadership and with the principals to try to help.
And what's happening now with COVID kind of on the wane? Are they going to have more?
I hope so. That's the
haven't heard,
plan,
yeah.
that we're going to be able to come back together and do events and sporting events. They had in-person graduation this year, even though it was outside and socially distanced. So we're tiptoeing.
Well,
back to-
maybe this has given them a time to cool off, during the COVID, sheltering in place and all that.
I think so. I hope that it will, because it is one of those things where it's been hard for me, as someone who works in all the schools and tries to be a role model and work with role models for kids, to see parents lose their perspective and behave in ways that aren't really role modeling the behavior you want your kids to be seeing.
Now, do you have plans to ramp up since COVID is over a little bit, according to the state?
Yes, very much so. We're hoping to be back on campus with all of our programs this coming year. So all of the youth leadership and Friday Night Live programs will be there. The mentoring programs are back in person already for our mentors who are vaccinated and comfortable doing it. So we're very much recruiting mentors for our young people. Sid.
You've been needling me for a while.
I have been needling you for a while, and I needle everyone who will let me needle them. We are always looking for safe, open-minded adults to be friends for our young people. We always have a waiting list.
How big is your pool?
Right
kids?
now it's about 8 kids. Things got really, really quiet during COVID, so it's a manageable list, and we're really hoping to get all those kids matched as soon as people are.
What was your
getting
peak
back together.
pre-COVID?
Oh my word! We had to actually close the waiting list at one point because it got so big. It was over, I think it was a dozen or 15 kids.
So you had to turn away kids?
We had to just say, please don't get on the waiting list because you'll wait so long that you won't like us. So, but it's getting, the new director or the manager of the mentoring programs, Kayla Gaffney, is very eager to get people back in person. She has orientations for prospective volunteers every single month, and you can find out when those are at the CCOE website. They're always listed.
And are you getting a good turnout from the adults? I mean, that sort of thing from the mentors?
They're starting to come back.
Good. They're getting the word out. Well, hopefully this will get the word out for you.
I hope so. In fact, this weekend, I don't know if you heard about it, but we have a fundraiser.
Oh, tell us more about it.
Well, it's already sort of sold out-ish, but people could come. We do have a few extra meals. Do you remember the party which was our
Yeah,
thing that we did. So we did
you
the
call it
party.
the party, right.
And then last fall, we did the party to go. And so,
You had to.
right, because we couldn't do it. So then this spring, we did the party to go.
Oh.
Because it seemed like such a fun way to keep doing the party to go, and we took it as a 70s theme, and so we're just having a good time. It's the same event that we had in the fall with a rib dinner for two to go, and a raffle for a smoker, a really cool, I can't remember the name of the brand, but it's very famous, and then a really great online auction that's taking place. And all of those things are accessible through calaverasmentoring.org is the website that all that stuff is
And
at.
how many tickets have you sold? You said you're sold out, so how many are going
Well,
to be
we
there?
had to close it because of the thing. So we have over 160 people who are
Nice.
going to be enjoying the meal. So we're very grateful. It's been really successful.
Is that your main fundraiser for the year, or do you have other things coming up?
It is for this year, and everybody has been, we really want to have an in-person event, or the Mentoring Foundation does. I'm a supporter now. They are independent of me. I still talk about it as me, but now I am, I'm sort of in the wings, watching the amazing people who make mentoring and mentoring funding happen. And so they are going to try to do something this fall. I think the next thing we're going to do is the duck races in Murphy's.
Oh, okay.
They're actually
You
having
have-
a homecoming, and they asked us if we would do the duck races, and we have to do a really simplified version of it because we have to be so careful about not knowing what the rules are for being in contact with
Right,
people.
social distancing and all that. Yeah.
But we're going to do something to keep it fun and be there for the kids and have some kind of duck race. We're just not quite sure how interactive it will be.
I know in years past it's been different nonprofits that do the duck races, so this year it's going to be the mentoring program.
We actually took it over several years ago
Oh,
and have been
shows
doing
I've been
it.
out of the loop.
Yeah, well, that's an interesting thing. I don't know how much time we have, but the reason that it kept turning over was that people were literally trying to do a rubber duck race down the river. Like when you
Yes,
bought a
I
duck,
remember
you
that.
actually got a number, and that duck was in the water and was competing, and that is unbelievably difficult. It's almost impossible. So what we did was we do a fun duck race for the show of the duck races, but it's actually a raffle so that it's fair for the people who buy a duck. Because if your duck doesn't go into the water until the first duck has already reached the bridge, then you never had a shot. Like, well, if we're going to do this, we want everybody to have a shot, and since it's random anyway, it's by chance, we went with the...
So it has nothing to do with Murphy's Creek.
Right, it doesn't. Although that is very fun, and everybody has a good time watching the ducks come down and catching the ducks as they come out. The actual winners are selected by
That's
chance.
probably much more fair.
Yeah, because we can't make this, we couldn't figure out how to make it fair. Plus, actually numbering all of the ducks and assigning them to individual people when you're selling hundreds
Right.
of tickets was not working out.
So tell me more about some of your other programs.
Thanks, I was hoping we would get. So also, our department oversees the Foster Youth Services Coordinating Program and the independent living program that is life skills for young adults who are growing up in foster care.
Okay, now break that down a little bit.
Well, foster youth services are, for education, it has been sort of a vague place for young people. When young people get moved from foster placement to foster placement, it has been extremely difficult for the school records to keep up with them, and for the school that they end up attending to know where they came from or what they need. And it's also been hard for them to be able to stay in a school that was the school that they wanted to be in, even if they're in the same county. So over time, young people who came out of foster care became advocates for change in the foster care system and have been successful in making some really significant changes, and especially around education, because it's been such a mess that it's been very difficult for foster youth to be successful educationally and to graduate. And they've come into the system to make the changes that they need to make to give them a much better, well, the future foster youth, a much better chance for success. So now there is a really good database that we can subscribe to that helps move the information faster. So that if, say, if little Billy has to move into care overnight and comes back to school with a different parent or guardian the next day, he can go back to his same school, stay there as a place that is steady and sustaining and safe and caring of him, even if he's not in the same district anymore.
Oh.
He gets a ride to his school so that everything that can stay stable for him stays stable for him. And the people who know him and who he knows and his friends, everything that can stay the same for a young person who goes into foster care does.
That's great. I mean, it's hard enough to be a foster kid, but the whole education part.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And if it can't stay because the move has been too big, then all of the information about little Billy gets quickly to the school that he's coming into, so he isn't a stranger. The school can welcome him and his foster family and know who he is, where he comes from, what he's good at, what his needs are, and be able to welcome him in a way where he's already known. He's not just adrift in the system somewhere.
And this came from the inside, from the actual foster kids that went through the system.
Yep, from foster youth who came through the system, who wanted to make it better for future generations, and have worked tirelessly for years advocating for these changes. It's such an exciting thing to see, Sid, because way back when I started working in the County Office of Education, we all saw these things happening to foster kids and felt so powerless, because it was only the force of your will or the knowledge that you had of the kid that would keep them from slipping through the cracks. And now the system is being shorn up and organized in a way that actually supports young people's success. It's a great time to...
How big is our foster program? How many kids are involved in all this?
In 2021, there were about... Can I cheat?
You could use your cheat sheet.
There were 141 young people in K through, in like 5 years old to 21, in the Calaveras County school system who were in foster care. So it's, for our population, we have about 5,000 kids in the system.
Okay.
That's
a good percentage, yeah.
It is a significant number, and that number is low because everything was much slower. There was much less movement during COVID. When we started taking over the program, it ran closer to 200. So it's not a small number, and with the resources that we have now and the staffing that we have now, the foster services program manager, her name is Christina Smith, and her specialist, whose name is Melissa Harvey, they know every one of these kids. And they know who they are and what they need, and they advocate for them and try to support their success in every way that they can. And they make it easier for the schools to support their success, for their social workers to support their success, and for their foster parents to support their success. Because we now have this system where we know enough to be useful to these kids.
Do you have a good pool of foster parents?
We don't place kids in foster care, but there is definitely a growth in, they call them resource families now. Mm-hmm. And there always is room for more. They're always looking for quality, safe, loving families for kids who need to go into care. So there are never enough. But
there never is.
Yes, same with mentors, right?
Yeah.
You never have enough mentors. There's always room for more. But that's a really good program. And then another program that we have is the Grandparent Project. Have you ever heard of that?
No, I haven't heard of that one. I am a grandparent, so tell me more.
Well, it's a support group, around the county, it's 3 different support groups for grandparents and other non-parent relatives who are raising kids. Mm-hmm. So there's a large number in this county and across the country of kids who are being raised by someone other than their parents, but a family member. So an aunt, uncle, grandparent, especially in this county, a lot of grandparents who are raising their kids' kids. And they need support because they are these heroic people who have stepped in to rear their grandkids but they missed a generation, so they don't necessarily know all about the technology. They don't know about the current school system. There's so many things that they cannot possibly be expected to know because it's not their time. And so these are groups that are specifically designed as peer support groups. So all the grandparents get together and support each other, and then speakers come in and help them with various aspects of legal things or school things or mental health things, and help them access the supports that they need to be successful.
Almost like Grandparents Anonymous.
Yeah, it is. Actually, it's very much like that. It's a tricky situation because a lot of people who find themselves in that situation,
Sure.
It's because something went wrong, and so it's hard for them to...
And they thought they were off the hot seat.
Yeah.
They reared their kids, and now they got to rear another set of kids.
And usually there's something that they don't feel good about in that, and
Yes.
so they're hesitant to ask for help and resources. But being in a group of people who are going through the same thing, who can help them and celebrate them, because it's a heroic thing to do, to step in and raise your grandkids while your own child is going through whatever they're going through that makes them not able to do it.
So if somebody's interested, they can contact the County Office of Education?
Right.
Yeah.
Yep, the county office. They could call me, but the CCOE website has the Grandparent Project and the information on that.
Great.
And then the other main thing...
Oh, I'm sure you have lots of projects.
Do we have time?
We have plenty of time, sure.
Okay, so the other big thing that I'm mostly involved with, I get to support the people who run all of the programs that I've just described. I mostly just make sure that they get funded and that they continue to get funded by doing what they need to do to maintain the funding. But what I'm mostly working on now is student mental health. And
Okay.
a big project that we're working on that I'm really proud of, there's two big ones. One is called the Calaveras Care Team, and that is a multidisciplinary team of people from different agencies in the county who come together every month to try to brainstorm about resources and supports for families that have come to the attention of someone who wants to help them. Usually it comes through the schools. So say, I don't want to use an example because it's all really confidential, but just as an example, that a family was losing their place to live and they had no idea how to go about getting connected to resources. They had no familiarity with the system at all. We have a navigator who works in the county office, and this team comes together and can say, oh, I can connect them with this resource around housing. I can connect them with this resource around employment. I can connect them with this resource around whatever it is from the people on the team. And then that navigator can contact the family or the person who made the referral and help them access those resources so that they're not just alone having to make 17 phone calls. There's someone who's saying, your community cares about you, and we want to try to help you through this rough patch.
So this is brand new, or do you have some success stories? Or?
We do have a couple of success stories. It's been great. We've been doing it for about a year, and it's been tricky during COVID because it's been so difficult to actually connect with people. But we've had a couple of really great ones, and some of them are, I would say the ones that we're most successful with right now are parents who are struggling on a lot of different levels, just overwhelmed, and they don't even know
Right.
that
What to ask.
that there's help. And so then you get someone who can say, look, would it be okay if I helped you through some of this stuff? And just the relief that they're not alone and that there is help and that there are resources.
So your team is proactive. They go to say, hey, we can offer you this. And
Right, yeah, it's only for people who want the help. It's
Right.
child welfare is for the people who have already risen to a place where they haven't been, where they're not capable of doing what they need to do, and so there has to be intervention. The care team is completely about, we are your community and we care about you as a fellow citizen, and what we do is resource people. So let us show you what we could do, what is available in our community for you. And that's been really satisfying.
Now, you
But
mentioned that was one.
that was one.
What's
So the other
second one?
really big one, and this is something that I'm just so excited about, is that we have partnered, the county school system has partnered with Calaveras County Behavioral Health Services and the whole Calaveras County Health and Human Services Agency to create student mental wellness centers in all of our elementary schools. We got a grant. We worked together to get a grant through the Mental Health Services Act, which is the millionaire tax.
Mm-hmm.
And that has been
Now,
such a
explain that a
boon
little
to
bit.
mental health.
Explain the millionaire tax.
Okay, the millionaire tax is a 1% tax on people who make over $1 million a year that was designated, do you remember what year?
I don't know.
I don't know what year, but it's been at least 10 years. And all of that money goes to support mental health services in our state.
Wow.
It's a California, and it has been magnificent. It took a little while for it to make its way down into kids and schools, but it's totally there now. And we're being resourced in the schools to support student mental health and wellness like we never have in the 20 years I've
So
been
how
in
are you
education.
using it now?
It's so exciting. And so what we have now, County Mental Health has partnered with, well, they've actually subcontracted to Sierra Child and Family Services, which is a multifaceted agency that does foster services, mental health, just a lot of different services in this region. And they had already done a similar program in another county. So they had an idea for what the infrastructure would look like. They've come into Calaveras and in just one school year have set up actual student mental wellness centers in every elementary school in our county.
In every one.
Already. And they're being accessed, and families who could never access mental health services for their kids because they didn't have the resources or didn't have the transportation are now being able to access those services. And kids who need really early small interventions in elementary school, like they're sad because they lost a grandparent or or a pet, or they're going through a divorce or something, they can get early supportive short-term interventions that will help them build the resiliency skills that they're going to need to keep them from going into crisis when they hit adolescence.
So your staff are like counselors, is that it?
Okay. Very much so. And we're even helping staff in the schools, and the team that's doing it, I'm just,
Right.
I'm just helping, I don't actually do it. And the staff of the schools, and going to be doing like trainings and skill building for parents to help them deal with their kids' little mental health hurdles when they're little kids, so that they can build the resiliency and the skills that will help them know when to ask for help when they're older, and do the kind of self-talk that will talk them through some of the issues that they will encounter and help them get through trauma. So this is something I've been wanting to do forever, because can I finish up this thought?
Just finish the thought.
Okay, so when I started the mentoring program, there was a program in Calaveras County called Special Friends, and it was a paraprofessional early intervention program in our elementary schools, and it sunsetted with the funding there, and I have seen the lack of those supports ever since, and we are bringing them back.
Wow. You have just been so informative. I've really learned a lot this last half hour.
I hope it hasn't been too much.
No, I really appreciate you.
It's so exciting.
Well, I'm Sid Marsh, and I hope you enjoyed Inside View, and we'll see you next time.